Okay, welcome to in-class assignment 27. This is our last ICA, so it's our chance to end strong. And we do have on Thursday, we are preparing for Thursday will be an exam review for which you have the exam the following week, so it gives you a full week and a half because it's on Saturday of the 10th. So you have a week and a half to prepare. So that should give you plenty of time once we have the final exam. So anyway, so we're focusing on closing strong here in class assignment 27. This is the last and final step and skills that you'll learn that'll provide security and protection on your spreadsheets so people can't accidentally go in. This is a very common error. If you send these complicated reports, people will accidentally type information into cells that have formulas in them or copy and paste text into your cells, and then your formulas are gone. Your report is messed up, and then of course I'll always blame you. But the issue is that you often can't send out reports to large populations within your company or at the school without protecting the cells to make sure that those accidents don't happen. So. And this is actually a nice format that we actually have the instructions built into the data sheet, which is nice. There should be two tabs, instructions. Then the second is the data. And we'll plan to jump right into it. So first thing is that we've been given, this is very common, you get data with a bunch of mistakes in it, or someone else did the report and there's all sorts of mistakes. And we have a template here that's using conditional format to tell you if you have the right information. And the first step is that we're going to want to go to our data tab and identify the number of errors in the report. And the cells are formatted so that once you put the right answer in here, you'll see that it turns green. Then you can move on. So we're going to be using a series of, let me see if I can move this box because it's right where I need to be. So you don't see the box, but it's obviously right where I need to be. But so you can just type in check error in the search up here, or if we go to the formulas bar, you can use the click there. So what we need to do is I'm supposed to highlight everything that we see, but you can also just click the corner here and go to error checking. And we're going to count up everywhere that we get, every cell that we get an error. So you have to pay attention because sometimes there's multiple errors in a given cell. So we have to just count the cells. So in this case, we're going to start here with H2. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's still the same cell. Now we're 6. Same cell, 7, 8. And you can see it's the boxes moving here. So we're at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to go down here. Where's my cell? So H24. Oh yeah, sorry, here it is. 16, 17, and we're at the end. So the answer there, it's identified 17 cells with problems. And let's say we got the wrong answer. We type 15 in here. You'll see it doesn't change to green, but we know we got the right answer, 17. And then we can move on to number 2. So does the number reported above represent the number of cells we need to repair? And these are select only. You can only select from your options. This is a list that was done in data validation, as you remember. And this we know the answer because we just went through. There were more than just the 17. So the answer is no, because sometimes errors produced other errors in a chain of a particular calculation. And here it says there was a one-to-one correspondence. We know that there was probably 20 to 21 errors, but some cells had 2, and that's what that's asking. So the number reported above is not the number of cells, it's the number of errors. Number 3, so here we want to activate on cell M2, one of the cells containing an error, and then select trace dependence formula. So it's easy enough. So this was, so we're going to go to M2 over here. And then again under formulas, if you go to trace dependence, command found no formulas that refer to that active cell. Let's make sure we're doing this right. Hang on. So yeah, so for the member formula ordering group, what happens? And let's see. Yeah, so okay, this makes sense. All right, let's do this again. Sorry. So again, we're in M2. So see there's an error there, and we're going to trace dependence. So it's going to show us where there's errors. And this says found no formulas that refer to the active cell. Yeah, so there's a, we're getting an error, but it's not dependent error. So we're going to click here. And nothing except for ping, because there is that, because in that cell there's not an error, and then I think it's because there are no cells that depend on the cell as an input, and that is correct. So that's defining what a dependent cell would be. So there's no dependence, and there's no cell that requires that. But we know there is an error. You know, there are some errors that are being generated. You could see the formula. This is just a way to quick spot check, and you can see that there's errors in what it's adding, and that's going to trigger that error up there. So we'll come back and fix that as we go. So there are 3 other cells that should agree with the value in B2 and report those addresses here. So here's B2, and we have 3 other cells that should agree with that value. And you know, so this is a count, and this is really just, you know, we're just going to go through and identify. But you know, this is also a count. They're counting the same things. Here, this is a sum, but this is summing up the counts of all the names. So we know that is that should match. And here's another sum that again should be matching. So the 3 that we know that should match that is C2, L2, and L17. So if we go here, you'll see you'll have selections C2, L2, L17. Okay, and then the next is we're going to moving on to number 5. What is the name given to the type of checking that's being done here? And this you should have learned from the videos. This is a cross-checking, so we're looking at totals and subtotals. You know, there's other ways you can trace precedence or trace dependence, which is we did before. We'll still do that, but this is just cross-checking. You know, just so we know that the count here in this order should match the count here, which should match, you know, this is a sum of counts, and here it's a sum of counts. They're all mutually independent, and they should all add up to the same number, which they don't, but we'll figure that out here in a minute. So anyways, that's called cross-checking. Number 6, so is there another group of cells that should agree in their value? And this is Yeah, so this would be the other. So while these were all based on counts, the other ones that should agree is this is adding the total, which all is the sums of all these, which should add up to the sum of these and add the sum of these. This is H2, M2, and M17. And fortunately, this is just one selection, H2, M2, M17. Click, and turns green. We're good to go. So we're going to activate L2 and use a trace error in formula auditing to find the root cause of the error in that cell. And it's asking, was there anything to edit in L2 itself? So here we go to L2, and we're going to trace dependence. What was asking? Yeah, so we're going to, sorry, it's to trace precedence. So you can remove the arrows once they're there. So click remove arrows. And we're going to trace precedence. And it's showing you what this cell is precedented on. And so you can see in here that, yeah, there is something going on there. Because this cell is not coming back, which is going to lead to an error up there. And before we fix it, we're going to go here. So L2, use the trace error. Here we are. Find the root in that report. Is that the one we're on? Yeah. Yeah, so this is, let me go back. So I did precedent, but we're going to go. So we're here. Check error. And yeah, so it's the directions say trace the error, but we're going to do, so you can either trace the dependence. So here we are again on L4. So if you trace the dependence, which if I remove the arrows, yeah, there's really nothing dependent. But if we trace precedence, then here you'll see, you know, these are the cells that it's responsible for. So there's no error in the formula, it's the error in the precedence. So come back here, and hopefully there's a selection similar to that. So L2 does not need to be changed, but even better than that is you can see L8 had a spelling error, and L2 itself did not need to be changed. So that is correct. And so now we're going to go to M17. And then we're going to again trace precedence, determine the number of generations behind the result, report the answer here. So this is, so here is M17. And we're going to see there's a series here, so we're going to trace precedence. And you see that there's 3 values that need to be fixed here. We can also trace trace dependence, and you can see it's actually linked to both of those columns as you would expect in the it's dependent on both of those columns. Yeah, so so the dependents here are dependent on those columns. Those are the count ifs. So I'm going to remove the arrows, and again, we're going to first, so we have identified here that there's 3 cells that are dependent on that cell, and these are the number of generations behind the result. So there's 3 numbers that have to be generated that are dependent on that are for M17 is dependent on. If you type 3 in there, you'll see that turns green, and we're good to continue. So now the fun part, we're going to go ahead and fix all the errors. And there's going to be a bunch of stuff. So you're given some instructions. You may use the suggestions from error checking to fix the reports and the errors, or we can identify it just through our experience. The other is you will notice, though, that your check figure is identified as step 4 and 6 will still not match, and what is most likely the mismatches here. So we're going to go ahead and fix all the errors in the report is where we're going to start. So the first thing is, you can see there's a value that's not being identified correctly here. And you'll see that some of the data that's entered in here, in this case it says only 29, which is formatted to show just 29. You obviously need numbers, so if you retype that correctly as 29, you can see you get rid of that formula. So here's another one. That number appears to be right. And the reason I'm checking these two columns is because the formula is F times G. So the error is going to be somewhere in there. And here, this is just it's just a text entry that looks exactly like, you see it has a $sign, all that space. So that needs to be 25. You can type that. You can see the format's not exactly right, so you just change it to dollars. It's going to move it right, but that clears that one. Then here's another one down here that we have identified that appears to be right. This is another one of those onlys for F. So this is F39. If we just type in 3, and that clears that one as well. And now we're getting the information that we need in this total column over here. And then, so moving back here, this next column, so here there's a problem with this formula. And if you do a quick look, you can see, it looks like they may have mistyped that. So count ifs, we don't need the ampersand in front, and we have an extra F in there. Let's get rid of that. Hit enter. And now you can see it is counting correctly. And then this one, we know it's not the number up here because we checked before, it's dependent on these values being correct. This has the same so the ampersand, we get rid of that, and it should be just 1F. Hit enter, and now you can see that one is counting correctly. And so if you go through, we no longer have the error signs. And I'm going to go ahead and let's go back to formulas and remove the arrows. Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead, just because I do this often enough and it drives me crazy, I'm going to go ahead and correctly format the whole column and just hit the $sign, and that should give me the format that we need. All right. So if I go back here, it says, so we went and fixed all the errors. So the errors are corrected, but we notice that the check figures identified in 4 and 6 still do not match. And that's, 42, 43, 41, 41, those are not matching. And also these do not match. So there's a problem there. And we're going to click here, and the pull down is going to say in this case, you can see that the data input was misspelled, and that's going to be a pain in the neck because now you have to go and check the spelling for every single data input. But there are some shortcuts that we're aware of. So I'm gonna actually first, you could see there's a little so there's an issue with this cell. You see the little notation that pops up. You can click on it, and this is saying that it should be text date with 2-digit year. But if you click on it, you see that little single quote in front that indicates that that's just the text in there. It's not identified as a date. So one of the first things we can correct if we get rid of that, because it's counting, it only counts numbers. It's not counting text. In this case, that one that we just changed was not correctly in the count. And by changing it now, the 43 matches the 43 here. So that's a step in the right direction. As we go through and fix these are gonna should change. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug a formula in. So this is gonna just type equals B equals, go to the data sheet, type B2, and hit enter. And that's the one we fixed, so that one's fine. And this one, so we can copy this just because it's a little easier because we have the data sheet, or we can, we'll just click on equals, enter, and this is H2. We haven't fixed that one, so that's still not correct, and this one is equal to L9, which we know is one here that needs to be corrected, and that is still not correct. So we know H2 is one that we have to fix. In fact, we'll plan to go fix them all at this point. So, and you know, so one of the first things we have to do is here. These are the names that are being used to count against. So there's a chance that there's an issue with the name typing. And a quick way to do this, as we know, is Control C. So highlight D4, Shift Control arrow down, Control C. We're going to paste over here, Control V. And then our favorite friend under data, we're going to remove the duplicates. And what we should be able to identify, and then I'm going to go ahead and highlight that and sort A to Z. And it'll show us that, oh, it looks like we have 2 kibbles here. And even though if you look at them, they look exactly the same, you'll notice this one has no space at the end, and this one does. Now, what we don't know is which one is which, and then this is within the column, but we can use a find and replace. So we're going to go click that whole column, hit Control H to open up find and replace. And then here, type in capital K-I-V-E-L-L with the space. And we're going to change that to capital K-I-V-E-L-L without the space. We don't know which one it is, but you can't visually inspect it, but this we know will correct it. And go ahead and hit replace all. And it did find 2. Yeah, so it did find 2, but I'm going to guess that this one, yeah. So the one in the, so this has a space at the end. You know, so this is what you don't normally get into. So this has the space at the end. So all we have to do is, we know they've been consolidated. We take that space off and hit enter, and now it's correctly counting because there's 1 kibble in the rep list here. It's been correctly sourced here, and now these cells match. And if you go back to the instructions, you'll see L9, which is the one we corrected, is now green. And then the other one that we need to figure out is here, east, west, and central. And it's likely going to be something similar. So Control Shift arrow down, Control C, and then we're going to just copy and paste here. This is all of them. We're going to remove the duplicates. And here you can see we have EEST. Now you can go through and find it, eyeballing it. I'm sure we'd find it pretty quick here. It's down here, but again, the easiest way, you can highlight the whole column, Control H, and then here we type EEST, and we're going to replace that with EAST. Replace all. There was one that was changed, and I'm going to hit close. And so it's still counting the 42. Oh, yeah. So, okay, that one was changed, but then there's also Central, which it should be Central with an A. So again, hit Control H. And here we're going to type in Central, the incorrect one, and we're going to replace it with Central, the correct one. Hit hit replace all, close, and hit close. And now you can see, yeah, so now you can see that this is correct. That's 43. And this matches this, but I'm looking here, H2. Yeah, so something, we're still not matching up H2. Let me see here. Yeah, so this does appear to be matching up. Yeah, so so this number is not matching H2, which this number is not correct. So there's likely an error in one of the formulas here. So we can go again back to formula and click on check errors. And it's showing us that there is an error in H24. So if we go down here to H24, and everything looks fine, which is interesting, but if we go here and you double click on that, voila, you could see that the formula is not matching up to the correct cell. So you could drag that down and hit enter, and everyone should now be at the new number, and our boxes turn green, so we're in good shape. Okay. So so now we're going to use data validation to make sure that we have data correct in our sheets. And yeah, so in this case, we're going to build data validation for both of these, columns B and column C. To make sure the right data is used. So column B, if we go here, so we're going to highlight this. Go ahead and highlight everything in column B and go to data validation here. And this, we're going to set this to equal dates. And we're going to say less than or equal to equals now. So that means everything has to be current. You can't have an order date for the time in the future.